Hey there, everybody. Pete here from Comic Book Geezers. Welcome to a review of the new Wonder Woman film, Wonder Woman 84, DC Universe, new film, which, thanks to COVID-19, it's not like we can go out. Well, you can, I guess, in certain places go out and see this in the theaters, but for most of us, we're watching this in our homes on HBO Max. So it debuted yesterday, Christmas Day. Watched it here with the family last night. So, spoiler alert, if you have not seen the film, you don't want too much detail about what happens in this movie, you may not want to watch yet, although I'm not going to give away the ending or anything like that. So, maybe okay if you watch the whole video. Anyway, so this is obviously the sequel to the Wonder Woman film, which came out in 2017, which was a big blockbuster, great film. I love the first Wonder Woman. And here the events take place 60 some odd years after the events in the first film, which was set in World War I time frame. So the beginning of this film, we have Diana Prince kind of thinking back on a time where back when she was on Themyscira as a little girl, participating in like their Amazon Olympics, so to speak, and she actually does very, very well, but she kind of cheats a little bit, and probably would have won the event against all of her much older relative siblings and what have you there, but because she took a shortcut during this particular event, this competition, her mother, played by Connie Nielsen, and her mentor, played by Robin Wright, actually stopped her from winning the race to kind of teach her a lesson well learned, right? And this whole film is all about lessons learned, and there's very deep messages in this film. But then we go to 1984, okay? Why they picked 1984 for the kind of theme behind this film, I don't know. But there are also a lot of references to things in the 80s and clothing styles and all that kind of stuff. But you have Diana Prince, who now is working in Washington, D.C., kind of like in the science community, right? She's got a job there. But right from the beginning, still 60 some odd years afterwards, she is still thinking about her lost love, Steve Trevor, okay, who was played by Chris Pine. All right. You would think, one of the things that I found strange, right here we have 60 years later. Of course, she hasn't aged at all. Gal Gadot plays, obviously, Wonder Woman. Looks fabulous in the film, as always. But she's still hurting for her lost love, Steve Trevor. Okay, and then we get introduced to different people in this film who are actually going to be the protagonists. So you've got the, Maxwell Lord, okay, is I guess you can call the main villain in this film. He's actually played by Mr. Mandalorian himself, Pedro Pascal. Okay, so he's just basically this like down on his luck businessman and entrepreneur who's basically a failure at everything he does. All right, so he's Maxwell Lord, so he's the one main bad. The other, who's played by comedian and actress Kristen Wiig. You know her from Saturday Night Live and various other films, and she actually plays a character called Barbara, who becomes the Cheetah. Cheetah is a main villain of Wonder Woman, the comics, as many of you probably know. So what winds up happening is the museum or the Science Institute where both Diana and Barbara work at, they come across this kind of like little weird stone-looking kind of stalactite kind of rock, right? Well, this rock has these certain powers, right? And what winds up happening is with this rock, if you make a wish while you're holding the rock, your wish will come true, right? So Barbara's character, the Cheetah, she is like, this kind of very plain looking woman who just never seems to fit in anywhere, very shy, never really done much with her life, no boyfriends to speak of, and she winds up meeting Diana Prince and looks up to her and one day wishes she could be more like her. Well, with that wish, all of a sudden she's got this strength and speed and all this stuff, so little does she know that Diana is actually Wonder Woman, right? So starts the ascension of her as the Cheetah. All of a sudden, she starts looking dynamite and dressing really great and all this 9 yards and whatnot and what have you. And then she starts to get to know Maxwell Lord's character, and he finds out about this stone, this rock, and he figures out what that's all about, and he winds up basically wishing that he was the stone. So in other words, all the properties and all the magical things that are happening with that little rock, with that stone, now he becomes the stone in essence. And he becomes like so power hungry that he just basically wants to then take over the world and have everybody's wishes make him more powerful. So that's kind of like the whole storyline behind here is like, making wishes that change the course of the world and humanity and make it actually not a better place. Because, I think the message is like you really should not always have everything exactly as you want it. Okay, that doesn't always work for the good of the universe, right? And also during all this, Diana, Wonder Woman, wishes she could be with Steve Trevor once again. So then she, out in the street, bumps into this guy who makes a couple comments to her that Steve Trevor made to her 60 years ago. As it turns out, this guy now is Steve Trevor, kind of resurrected in the body of this other gentleman that she doesn't know, but is actually him. And only she can see him as Steve Trevor. So they rekindle their romance, so happy to see each other and all that. They're finally back together again. Not sure how I feel about that whole part of the story. And but without giving too much away, so now here, Wonder Woman and Steve try to stop this Maxwell Lord character who keeps getting more and more crazy, more and more power hungry, and then all of a sudden you've got Barbara's character, the Cheetah, who then dons a costume. She wants to protect Maxwell Lord because they have this little bit of a kinship, so to speak, and so she winds up starting to also get a little bit kind of demented in the head, right? So there's this big battle towards the end of the film between Wonder Woman and the Cheetah. Wonder Woman actually, because of the wish that she partook in, starts to little by little lose some of her powers. Okay? So as you can imagine, there are certain things she must do to get her powers back, which I'm not going to get into. You'll have to see that part of the film. But for all of you who are big fans, longtime fans of the Wonder Woman character, you've got the magic lasso, okay, which plays a huge part in this film. You also have the first appearance of the invisible plane, right? That happens here as well. So pretty cool to see that. So I mean, overall, I felt that the plot of the whole film was a little on the hokey side. I know a lot of people, I've read a ton of reviews since I saw the film yesterday. There's a lot of people who really like the positive message of the film in the end. And I get that, and I can kind of see that. It's, is it the ultimate kind of follow-up to a great debut film, the first Wonder Woman film? No, I felt it was pretty lackluster compared to the first film. I also felt, and I feel this way about a lot of the superhero films that maybe a lot of us are kind of like on the fence about. If you don't have a really strong villain or villains, the film ultimately suffers. And this is another instance where the villain of the film, villains I should say, Kristen Wiig's take on the Cheetah wasn't bad, but she's not the main villain in the film, right? Pedro Pascal is as Maxwell Lord, and I think that Pascal does a really good job as just being this like out of control, demented guy who's letting all this power, take over. But you never got the impression that he was in the end going to be much of a challenge here, and so in essence, neither one of them are really these super formidable villains that you may ever. It's not like this is not Thanos, right, from the Marvel films, okay, or the Green Goblin, or this is kind of like the problem that a lot of the DC films have had. It's like they haven't had strong enough villains as of yet, okay, but. And this one especially kind of feels that way. Some of the dialogue, a little silly. They were trying to really kind of hit on the early 80s styles and sayings and all that kind of stuff. Felt a little forced at times. The effects and the CGI, not bad. Some of the fight scenes were pretty good. I didn't think there were enough of them. There were stretches, especially the first hour, that I thought kind of dragged on a little bit. But Gal Gadot did a fine job. You know, she's lovely to look at, and she just kind of radiates whenever she's on the screen. I almost felt like she was like a second tier character in her own film, though. That's the strange thing. I felt like she, you know, that was the great thing about the first film. She was so enchanting throughout the whole thing, and then here you have in this second film where they have just too many characters, and she feels like a second fiddle in her own film. As far as Chris Pine did his normal thing. I didn't know if this movie needed him. I thought that was just, you know, let's kind of put them together again and see recreate that magic. Well, you know, if you want, why kill him in the first place? Is my guess, because I know a lot of people were upset that they killed his character off in the first movie. It's like, well, if you're going to do that, why bring him back again? Should have just let him live, right? But overall, though, didn't hate the movie by any means. There were parts I enjoyed, but there were parts of it I was kind of like it was losing my interest, and I just kept thinking, it's like, wow, this is not as engaging a film by far as the first one. I mean, the first one was so good, I wanted to immediately watch it again. This one was kind of like, okay, we saw it. We all, after the film, we all talked about it here and talked about the few things we liked about it and the bigger things we didn't like about it. And it's not one of those films that I'm really wanting to go watch again anytime soon. I will want to watch it again at some point, but it was not. It just didn't impact you that way. But again, you read reviews all over the internet, and there are people who really liked it. There are people who absolutely hated it. So here's the deal. You guys go out and watch it when you get a chance, and then come report back in the comments and let us know what you think. Wonder Woman 84. On a scale of 1 to 5, I'm going to give it probably a 3. Excuse me. 3, so decent, not great. Not terrible either. Kind of like middle of the road. Fairly enjoyable. You know, 2.5 hours, probably 20, 25 minutes, a little too long. I think a tight 2 hours probably would have been enough to tell the story. So, but like I said, not terrible by any means, and I still love her as Wonder Woman. But you have to wonder, it's just a terrible time to be releasing these films. I mean, I'm sure that movie cost a lot to make, and now, you know, you can't release it in the theaters like you normally would because most theaters are closed. They're very limited capacity. Hopefully, with this and the future DC films being on HBO Max, that they will get tons of subscriptions, and in the end, it will make the kind of money that it needs to maybe make another sequel. I don't know. I think, though, that if they're going to do another sequel, you got to bring her into the present day, which I always kind of question why they did it in 1984. But bring her into the present day. We've already seen her in a couple films in the present day, so let's do that again and kind of take it from there, right? Or maybe we'll, you know, there'll be with rumors of this Flashpoint film, the first Flash film coming out, that she's probably going to be in there. Will there be another Justice League? I don't know, but I'm all for seeing another Wonder Woman film because I love the character and I love her in the role. But I think they need to kind of tighten up the script a little bit, give her a little more to do. So anyway, that's Pete here from Comic Book Geezers. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. We'll be seeing you real soon with some more content. I think I'm getting together with Wild Bill tomorrow, it looks like. So you'll have all sorts of videos for next week. So take care, everybody. See you soon. And have a great holiday season.